So we talk a lot about disruption, right? So clearly what Greta is doing is you're disrupting a certain place, right? And I think that we talk about it often in the sense of being a startup or being being in a technology space. Often, we're using it in the wrong way, actually. There was a really great article in Medium recently that talked about actually what does disruption look like in an enterprise industry. I highly recommend you read it. But what I wanted to talk to you about tonight was disrupting yourself. So bear with me for a second, because I'm certainly not a Freudian, and I don't support Freud, except for he did have actually one really good idea, which was the pleasure principle. Right? So the pleasure principle is that everything that we do in our lives is based on making us happy. What you eat, what you drink, who you hang out with, where you live, what music you listen to, the movies you watch. Everything is based on providing you some element of joy. So when it's incongruent, when what you're doing is not providing you joy, things happen, like your body shuts down on you to tell you to pay attention to these things. So it doesn't matter if we're talking about enterprises, and I've worked in large enterprises of 35,000 people plus, and I've worked in startups that started off with 100 people and we grew to 150 before we got acquired, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of size of an organization you're talking about. Everybody thinks they want change, but nobody actually wants to change. And so what I want to talk to you guys about, and what I want to encourage you all to do, and no matter what your circumstances are, because they're different for everybody, is I want you to make the change for yourself. And what does that look like? It's different for everybody. I want you to disrupt yourself in what way that works for you. Because we work in patterns, right? Patterns is like something happens and we react a certain way, and then we go back to these patterns. And these patterns are the way that we actually respond to our lives. And those patterns may sometimes work for us, but often I'm going to hazard a guess that oftentimes they do not. So we like to take the path of certainty, but what I'm contending tonight is that being uncertain is what actually gives you the greatest reward. So before you're feeling like this, and before you're feeling like this, I came across this quote, and it was from Cheryl Strayed, and it was after her mom had died, and it was about putting yourself in the way of beauty. And so my challenge for you, my call to action for everybody here is to put yourself in your own way of disruption. Oh, this was it. Very personal. For me, I made a decision to walk away from environments that did not value me or respect me. I decided to actually give voice to environments and to arguments and to things that people weren't talking about, like this kind of subject. And so the greatest disruption in my life came when I actually put myself in front of that purposefully, rather than reacting to the disruption that was happening to me as it had previously in my life. So I encourage you to get yourself shit disturbed. Be your own constructive irritant. Don't wait for the lousy boss, or don't wait for the change that's happening in your organization. The greatest change is going to come to you, whether it's starting a new company, or whether it's making a change, or whether it's hiring the right person, or whether it's trying out that new app. Whatever it may be, you don't know what it's going to look like. But don't assume that where you are right now is necessarily where you have to be. Don't accept that. By the way, if I could do an entire talk on just like Gabe and Lloyd, I totally would. So now what? The question is, so if you are a startup, personally disrupt yourself. Get out of your norm. Look around you. If you are a white dude, go hang out in a room that is not full of white dudes. Oh, scary thought, right? And I'm not talking about being an interloper, okay? Like I'm talking about like working toward engaging with a community that is not necessarily your community. I'm talking about building relationships. I'm talking about being specifically uncomfortable. Be a minority in a room and go sit in that room. So I was also thinking about this, like, with regards to like, if you're a man, if you're a woman, go into a room and just be the only woman in the room, but we know that that happens a lot in tech. So when I was doing a Google search on men being the only men in a room of women, I think we have a bias problem. Just maybe. So keep that in mind. All right, so what I want to do, I want to encourage you to do that listening. I want you to go to a community of people that you don't know or that you are not part of, and just listen. Don't proffer information, don't share information, just listen to the stories of other people and have that influence you. Because you really are always just one decision away from actually having a huge change to your life and from your worldview. And if you're building a startup, that means you're building a better product. And if you're building a company, that means you're building a better company and a better culture. And if you're talking to people from an... So I encourage you to not sitting in the comforting lies line and sitting in these kind of uncomfortable truths.